everyone, Jim here, Boots and Whiskey Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the show. Today we have Adam Warner here. Um, Adam just released a song last week, which is absolutely fantastic. Go check it out. Um, we talked to him a few weeks ago, maybe even longer than that. Um, but like, he's a cool dude. Like, this is the thing about this show. Like, we're super fortunate that we get to just talk to like real people, right? And, like, that's our whole thing, right? Um, and like Adam didn't disappoint. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's always interesting going into these conversations because you always think I always think that I'm gonna get one thing usually and I get another. And this is one of those things where you never know. And the conversation that you're about to listen to, see, whatever, witness, um, is exactly the way I always want this show to go. Every time. Every time. It's raw, it's honest, it's authentic, it's just absolutely fantastic. And I can't thank Adam enough for being so cool and so kind um, with that. So hopefully you enjoy this episode. If you don't, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. What did we do over the weekend? We saw Dalton and the Sheriffs at their show at Leader Bank Pavilion in Boston. So proud of those guys. They become super good friends of ours. So, kudos to them. We'll put out something eventually. We just kind of went to enjoy the show this time. We weren't really working per se. Um, big shout out to them for having us out and hanging backstage and stuff. It was a lot of fun. We still have reviews to come out. I'm lazy as fuck, so they haven't come out. Um, but they are coming, I promise you. We also announced the other day that October 6th, we have some news coming, and we do. We're working on some things. We're gonna bring the Boots and Whiskey podcast up a level, just to give you an idea of where we're at. And that's it. That's it. So thanks for being here. If it's your first time, welcome. I hope you enjoy the format. This is just what you get. If it's not your first time here, you know what you're in for. That's it. That's it. We hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you on the flip side, guys. Cheers.
Oh,
Yeah, this is probably the most unprofessional interview you'll ever do in your entire career. So,
heck yeah.
uh, first and foremost, welcome. Thanks for being
Thanks,
here,
brother.
man.
Man, I appreciate y'all making time for me to come on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
yeah,
fun.
man. I love your sound. You've got that real country sound.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I love that, man. Like that's what I kind of grew up listening to anyway, was country in the 90s. So not to say that I haven't experimented with other sounds either, but man, that's just what feels the most, authentic to me anyway. That's
Yeah,
what I feel I do
yeah.
best.
You, now so I didn't grow up with country music, or like my dad's side of the family always had country music on, but I fucking hated it, like hated it,
Fair.
and it's only within the last 10 years or so that I actually give a shit.
Nice.
But I have found myself caring more about those sounds, those more authentic sounds, the '90s, the Whalens, the Willies, et cetera, et cetera. Right
Oh yeah.
now, does that just come natural to you, or is it just something you prefer?
I think some of it is natural. Like I feel like my voice is really nice with those types of arrangements, to say the least. Like and just age, like I said, I mean, when I was a kid, I grew up, both sides of my family were farmers, and I spent a lot of time in tractors that, this was before CD players were in them. And I mean, it was just what was on the radio, Brooks and Dunn, Joe Diffie, the Trace Atkinses, Garth was, of course, everywhere then. And so for me, that's kind of what molded I think, my preference, to say the least. Like I didn't really start listening to like the older country music, like the Whalens and Willies and all that stuff, until much later. Like moving to Nashville, just doing my own research and listening to music. And of course, I'm partial to that too. Like I love what those guys did. But yeah, I mean, just as a kid, it was, 90s country and 90s rock, the Alice in Chains, Metallica
Oh yeah.
and Nirvana's and, Pantera and stuff like that. So, and of course, I love Southern rock too. So, but yeah, I think it's more partially preference. I tried chasing, the Music Row sound there for a couple years, and man, it just didn't feel real to me. Like I was just it just didn't fit. Like that's just not
Yeah.
who I was. So I just said, man, you know what? I'm just gonna do what I do, and hopefully some other people like it too.
Now, how? Let me ask you this. When you kind of like, you said you tried to do that and tried to do the Nashville sound and all that, and then, shifted. Like, did you see a? How much of a difference did you see in your music and your following and yourself when you just said, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna do me.
Yeah, honestly, I've played since doing that, like I've played the biggest shows like that I've ever played, to be completely
Yeah.
honest. And I think just being authentic to yourself, whatever that is, I mean, I'm not dogging anybody that's mainstream or going that route. I mean, if that's your like, I got friends that are quite a bit younger than me that I don't, they wouldn't sound right trying to sing my style of music, just like I would, I don't feel right trying to chase that down either. But I think it's all a part
Sure.
of growing too, like you come here with an idea and I started off very, very traditional, country music sounding and I think Nashville, like, well, when I say Nashville, I mean like the Music Row side of Nashville. I don't mean like Nashville as a
Yeah.
city,
Yeah.
but it's like, when you're talking to these people and you hear, yeah, I mean your show is great and you're polished, but man, like you're too country for like what we're doing. That kind of like starts getting in your head a little bit of like, well, maybe I do need to try to start, making this type of music to make people pay attention. But I mean, like I said, I mean, literally, like, as soon as I was just like, whatever, I'm doing me. We started playing big festivals. I played some of the biggest festivals I've ever played this year, just, because I was just like, I'm done. I'm not I mean, I don't even know if they know what they're looking for, to be honest with you. So like
Right.
just, you might as well do what, you do best. And that's just kind of where I feel like I fit in best. And it's, so far it's paid off pretty good for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that wild when they say that you're too country?
Yeah, it's a
Like
weird thing to hear
it
in
doesn't even
country
make
music.
sense.
I know.
Right.
It is
Right.
wild. Yeah. I mean, that was one
I
of the
think,
first
I
things I
think,
was told.
and like you're not the only one. You hear it all the time. Like Cody Johnson has always said it. When he went to Nashville the
Hmm.
first time, they told him, he was too country, and it's like, what the, like,
Yeah.
what does that
No,
even mean? You know?
it's super weird, man. Like when I very first started, I'd written a handful of songs. Like I hadn't even graduated school yet. I was still in college and passed them to who's my manager now, Bill. And I was just like, man, I just want, and I didn't even know he knew anybody in the music industry. I just wanted an outside perspective because my mom's always going to tell me I'm not, that I'm great no
Right.
matter what. So
Right.
I,
Yeah.
I, I kind of needed somebody to be like, no, that sucks. Or, and he was that guy. Like he was just very blunt about things. And I sent him like three songs that I had written, and he was just like, he finally got back to me and was just like, I'm gonna send this to a buddy of mine and just have him listen to it and see what his thoughts are too. And I was just like, that's fine, I don't care. And long story short, I was at a Titans game with him that he invited me to, and somehow found my way in the GM's suite with him. And about halfway through the first quarter of that game, I felt like there was somebody behind me breathing on my neck, and I turned around, and it was Trace Adkins. And that was,
Jesus
yeah, I
Christ.
know. I was just like, and to make it even better, like, I'm not a short guy. I'm 6'1", but I whip around, and my nose is in like the center of his stomach almost. The dude's like 6'7". So I look up, and he's in. First thing he said to me was, "Get out of my suite." And I was like, okay, yes, sir. He's like, oh, I'm just messing with you. And we got talking about the music, and that was the first time I'd heard that. He was like, "Man, I personally love what you're doing." He was like, "My label would never let me cut those songs just because," he goes, "I know it sounds weird, but he goes, they're just too country." And he goes, "I know what that sounds like," but he was like, "That's just what they're going to say." But he said, "I think whatever it is you're
Right.
doing," he goes, "I would keep doing it and, maybe put those songs out there and just see what happens." So I was just kind of like, well, I mean, if Trace Adkins tells you to do something, I mean, he probably knows a little bit of what he's talking about. So that's what I did. And,
Right.
one thing kind of led to another. And I ended up getting another call from him, a few weeks later down the road. And he put me on the road with him. And I started singing, opening shows for him in like 2018 and 19. And man, he's just been so good to me, and I've learned so much from him. So I owe him a big thank you one of these days. Not sure how I can repay that guy, but I need to figure
Right.
that out somehow. Yeah,
It's funny you talk about Trace because we saw him that Blake Shelton tour that was going around earlier this year with him
yeah,
and Craig Morgan and I don't even remember who else was on it. But like that was, I bust balls about radio country all the time,
hmm,
and especially people like Blake Shelton because he's been on TV, and because
oh yeah, of
it's
course,
you,
it's an
you
easy
do it
target
when you're on this side because it's gonna get views, right?
for sure.
But that was one of the most country music shows I have been to in years.
Oh, it was great, man. I saw the same one. It was a few years. Golly, man, I think it was right before COVID, maybe, but it was the same thing. The Blake Shelton Friends and Heroes tour, I guess, is what he was calling it
Yeah,
then. And yeah, he had like the Bellamy brothers on it, and of course Trace was on it, and man, I think John Anderson might have been there too. But man, like you said, I was just like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be done. That was awesome.
right,
Yeah, it was a really cool
right, and
show.
it was awesome.
Hmm.
You kind of like you forget how country Blake Shelton was, however you want to slice it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you
Until
listen
you
to his
hear
old
those
stuff.
songs again, it's
Yeah,
right,
100%. Yeah. Yeah,
right.
people forgot Blake
I
before
mean,
Blake was on TV, he had a mullet, like yeah, that
right,
dude's country is
right,
cornbread.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Mm.
When you think about it, like a song like Austin, right?
No, come on.
That
Yeah.
is a quintessential country music song.
Yeah, that don't get any better than that as far as like I mean, the
No,
writing on that song and just yeah, I mean, of course his delivery. I mean, yeah, that's up the gut as you can get. That's a great storytelling song.
it is. It is.
Hmm.
Now, I historically don't look into my guests because I want to have the conversation, right?
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but I did notice, and because this is a big tug at my heart, and probably why I wanted you to come on. But I did notice you're a Marine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I served from '04 to '08. Not to give away my age or anything, but
How how old you might be?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Same. No,
I
we're the
was in
same
school
age.
at the time, and yeah, man. I two of my closest buddies that I was in high school with, they joined like right after graduation, and my next door neighbor,
Yeah.
who was one of my best friends in the whole world, he was one of those guys, and I was in a junior college, just boozing and partying, and I was in school for music, but I was in, a junior college across the river from my hometown, which is like 4,200. And I was just like, I mean, how much music am I going to be doing here? So, yeah,
Right.
it was just one of them things, man. Like I just felt like it was a calling and I dropped out after a semester of school and I went to the recruiter's office because it was literally like a block from the campus. And it was the same recruiter that put my best friend in. And I was just like, man, I want to join. And he was like, oh, and of course he hooked me right away. He was just like, well, I don't know, man. I'm not sure if the Marine Corps is, fit out for you. And I was like, no, okay. That made me want to do it even more. So like I ended up signing a contract like the next day. And then I told my parents, and of course they were like, you do watch the news, right? You know what's
Right.
going
Right.
on. And I was just
Right.
like,
You know what year it is, right?
right, exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, man, I love the Marine Corps, man. I've still have lifelong friends from being there. I still have friends in, and they're like, all
Right.
sergeant majors now, which I'm like, man, I think back and I'll be like, man, be retiring in the next year would sound pretty cool too, but I don't regret anything. It was great.
No. That's I can't thank you enough for your service. My
Appreciate that.
grandfather was a Marine,
Oh,
and
nice. Heck
he
yeah.
was in World War II, and he landed on Okinawa on Easter Sunday in what 45, 44, 45
Yeah.
at the towards the end. And that's one of my biggest regrets in my life is not getting more out of him about it.
It's funny you say that too, because so my grandfather, he was in the army and he was in World War II as well. And that was the weird thing about me joining the military. Like I didn't know anything about it, nothing, just other than my grandfather was in World War II. And when I had come back from being overseas, my first time was the only time I ever had a conversation with him about just anything military related. And I'll never forget, man, we were sitting in his basement and and he was just kind of like, "You things are different now, aren't they?" And I was just like, "Yeah, that's a good way to put it." And I was like, "But I really want to hear you. I don't know anything about your story." And he started kind of talking to me about, him being in World War II. And I mean, like, we talk about a guy that was as hard as nails, man. Like, joining at
Yeah,
17 years old, lying about their age, and then, he had two silver stars from the battles he was in, and I was just like, that gum, man. Like, I wish I would have known this type of stuff earlier in life. But yeah, it's those guys never I was the same way. I was fortunate enough to hear like a couple of his stories. Like I know how he got his first silver star, but he never went into how the second one came about. But yeah, man, those guys were just a different greatest generation for a reason, is the way I always say. Like those guys
oh
really
yeah,
were the greatest generation, man. Like just tough as nails. It's crazy. And
yeah.
he was at
And
Okie.
you,
He went
you
to
know,
Okinawa.
I don't know.
Or
Yeah,
Iwo Jima. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
What the hell is that movie that came out a couple years ago? And it was all about that. But like he had seen it, and he was like, "This is exactly what it was like." And
yeah,
it was, I didn't, I hadn't watched. I watched. God, I wish I could remember the name of the movie. Um, but the one in question, I had ended up watching the day he ended up passing away, like that night.
yeah,
And I sat there with my ex-wife and like bawled my eyes out because
yeah,
it was one of those things where it was like, now it's too fucking late. I can't even ask a question.
yeah.
You know,
And it's
it
real to
was,
you then at
it
that point.
was,
You're just like, yeah,
yeah,
I get it, man. I was the same way. I'm pretty sure he was in Battle of the Bulge, and I was, and this was years after he had passed, and I was watching it on like Netflix or something. I was the same way, bro. My
yeah,
wife comes in, she's like, "What's wrong with you?" She's like, "I've never seen you cry," and I was like,
yeah,
"Look, I'm not
yeah.
crying. You don't understand." Yeah,
Right,
I got something in my eye. I'm
right.
fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh,
it makes it real.
Hacksaw Ridge was the name of the movie.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Who's the yeah, I see. Is that the one that is Clint Eastwood in that one?
No, I think
Or
he directed it. He might be in it for a little bit at the beginning, but
yeah,
he directed it. I know that.
yeah,
Um,
that's a good
but
one, man.
yeah,
Man, yeah, that's
it
tough.
was great.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
Because
wild
I
one.
remember
Yeah.
I remember being a kid, and my grandfather would never talk about it ever, ever.
Mm-mm.
And then because I was a history kid in school, I wanted to be a high school history teacher, and like I would ask him all the time, like give me something,
Yeah.
you know,
No, yeah,
and he
he was the
wouldn't.
same
And then
exact way, man.
yeah,
It's
it
just
took.
wild.
It sounds fucked up, but like it took my grandmother dying for him to,
Open up.
finally start
Yeah.
talking. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I had an older cousin. I was the only Marine in my family. I had a bunch of guys, bunch of family that went into the army. Um, and like my cousin, he's probably, I think he's 12 years older than me, and he retired out of the army. He was a sergeant major as well. And I just remember like when I came out of like boot camp, and he came to my graduation and whatnot, and when we went back home, and my grandfather, he had checked in for the night, and we were sitting out in his backyard, and he had made the comment. He was like, your grandpa's like a hero, right? And I was like, well, he's a hero in my eyes either way, just because, he served our country. But man, he was like, you really got to get him to open up one day and hear, his story. And yeah, it was not an easy thing to get him to talk about. There was, when we
Yeah.
finally talked about it, there were several cocktails involved to get to that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, just hearing those guys, man, I mean, it's crazy. Those guys really were. I mean, the technology, we have today and then thinking about what those guys were going through, just, you know, I mean, that was real combat, like people were freezing
Yeah.
to death and not just getting shot. I mean, that was a real, yeah, it's crazy. Those
Right.
guys have my utmost respect for sure.
Yeah. And it's weird, and I'm not trying to get on a soapbox or any of that bullshit, but
Sure.
like, I, you know, I think the biggest difference between that generation and like the shit we've gone through is like everybody was on board. Those
Mm,
guys went there because they believed in what was going on. You know what I
hmm.
mean? And I'm not saying that the guys or girls that go and fight now don't, but it's not,
Yeah, you didn't have a choice. Yeah, it was,
right,
women
right,
picking up the wives and the women back home picking up the slack, going to work in factories to make ammunition for the guys out in the front line. And yeah, it was a full, I almost compare it to how, like when 9/11 happened, like the
right.
mentality of how the United
Yeah,
States changed. It was just like everybody
yeah,
was
yeah,
like, okay, we're in it now. We're one.
yeah,
And it almost takes something like that at times, which is unfortunate to see that type of unity. But yeah, you're right. It was like a full effort on both ends.
yeah.
Everyone was all in. Yeah,
It was,
crazy.
yeah. And now, so with you going through, the Marine Corps and doing all that, like how much, and now with your music, how much has some of those experiences shaped your songwriting?
I get asked this quite a bit, and for me, really, from just not just the songwriting aspect, but just in all aspects of just how the music industry is. You know, I tell people when they ask if you could give advice to anybody that was trying to, come to Nashville or pursue being an artist, what would you tell them? And then going back to your thing is, man, the military gives you like just such mental toughness, and then also just the discipline side of things. You're gonna hear no so much in this town where if you're not mentally tough and you're just not like I don't know if it's mentally tough or stubborn or too dumb to quit, you're going to get told no so much or, no, that's not a good song. And then, 5 years later goes by and all of a sudden, someone that's, bigger than you wants to cut that song. So it just shows you how much, they actually know about what they're talking about. But just, discipline is the big thing and just being able to stay on that grind because I mean it's every bit of a 10-year town. I mean, I know not everybody's story is the same. Of course, it happens quicker for some folks, but almost everybody I know, it's like, man, I was at my last line and I was 12 years into, this ride of music, and right before I was about to throw in the town, towel, I got a call. So mental toughness would be the biggest thing that I took out of it is just, the one no doesn't define the next 10 years or the next 5 years or 8 years. It's just, I mean, if that's what you feel your
Right,
calling is, you just got to stick with it and do it. I mean, you hear about some of the biggest names, not just in country, but just in entertainment, in general, like how many times these people were turned down and said, no, 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 no. And then finally you get that one yes. And then all of a sudden it's just, skyrockets. So I think
right.
that's the biggest thing I took from it, man, was just, having the discipline to sharpen your skill. And, even with my band, I mean, we rehearse even if we don't have shows. We've been, playing together for 9 years. So it's, yeah, when people see us live, they're just like, man, you guys are so tight. Yeah, well, there's a lot of reps that go into that, So,
Right,
yeah,
absolutely.
those would be my two tidbits I took from it anyway.
Now, when you got out of the Marine Corps, is that when you decided I got to move to Nashville, or was there time in between?
There was time in between for sure. Like I said, I mean, I started I think my first band was a rock band, and I started it when I was in between like my eighth grade summer and going into high school. So I'd always loved writing, and I've always loved playing and being, in front of people on stage. But yeah, I didn't really know yet. Like I knew I loved writing songs, and I knew I loved the storytelling. And I was thinking about going back to school to get into like the production side of things. And I visited four or five different schools, and honestly, it was I went to Murfreesboro, Tennessee at MTSU, and really the only reason I picked that school is because it was the only school I felt like I could graduate from in 4 years. Yeah, I visited UT and Alabama and went to Florida and all these. I was like, nah, I'll fail out here. 99% chance I'm gonna fail out if I go to school here. And it just had more of a small, it's a giant school, but because of where it's located, it just had this like home vibe to it. And I
Sure.
was just like, I think I can make it work. So I don't, just God put you in the right place, I guess, is the best way of putting it. Just and then, being there and meeting like-minded people, and then you start writing songs together, and then just one thing kind of led to the next. But
Yeah.
I didn't really go into moving to Tennessee or the Nashville area with the mindset of like, I'm going to do this because I want to be, in country music and a songwriter. It's just kind of the way it unfolded, really.
Yeah. Now, so when you were growing up and writing songs and all that before moving to town,
Hmm.
were, were you writing with some sort of intent to make it a career, or were you just writing because you just enjoyed it?
A little bit of both, when we started our first band, there was three of us, and one of them was a neighbor kid, and he played bass, and I played guitar, and then a kid I went to school with, I knew he played drums, so I just hit him up one day, and I was like, "Man, we should just jam." And he hauled his drum kit over, and of course, we only knew like two songs at the time, but in the early days, it was a little bit of just of both. Just like I loved playing music, and I loved the way it felt and sounded, and a lot of times we'd just start jamming on some random stuff that we didn't even know what we were playing, and next thing I was in my mind kind of putting lyrics to it, and I kind of still do it the same way today. Like I don't really go into it. I try to go into it in the headspace of not thinking about me necessarily, but if it turns into a me song, great. But if it doesn't, then having like a Blake Shelton cut one of these days would be real nice too, so I could pay my house off maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I find it fascinating when, when people, write songs and stuff and have, I'm not gonna lie to you, that's the first time I've heard that perspective where you just kind of write to write and not,
Hmm.
necessarily, you know, a lot of people will write based on, whatever they're going through or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I like your approach because I feel like it's a little more this sounds bad, but sensible.
Yeah,
Where
and of
it's
course there
like,
are those. Yeah, I feel what you're saying. I mean, and I think there are those times too, like, you're going through a low point, or like, when my grandfather passed, like I knew I wanted to write a song about him because we spent so much time together, and I was just like, I feel like this is the only way I can really get it out. But I mean, for the most part, it is just that. I mean, I just try to go in with a clear head, and I might have a few titles, in my phone that I think are cool, but I just, I try to stay loose because when you go into that room, you never know what the other person um, might have up their sleeve, and I don't ever want to go in with a mentality of like, no, 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 this is what we need to do because man, like you could miss out on,
yeah.
you know, a crazy title and that turns into a hit song, either for yourself or somebody else. So I try to stay pretty fluid with that as far as just mindset wise.
Now, do you have any songs you've written or in the process, even in the process, I guess, that you are or were really excited about, but didn't catch fire like you think they should have?
Yeah, man, for sure. That happens. That happens a lot. Like so most of the time I will test out songs, especially if they're mine, in my show first. And just
Okay.
to see, the reaction I get, or if people are kind of like, looking at each other like, okay, that's pretty sick, or if that's the song I mean, I've had songs where I was like, man, this is a no-brainer, and you start playing it, and then that's when people start going to get beer, so I'm like, well, maybe that wasn't as good as I thought, that type of deal. But but yeah, I mean, typically that's kind of how I measure whether or not I'm gonna cut something. I'll start playing it live first and just trying to, get the crowd's feedback. And if I feel like they're into it, then I'll take a swing at it in the studio. And if I see them start to go buy drinks for their friends, and I'm just like, maybe it's not as, relatable as I thought it was.
Now, what about the flip side of that, right? Have you had songs where you're not crazy about and tried them out and everybody is, and you're like, son of a shit?
Yeah, absolutely. One I put out last year actually, like we were it's funny too because we wrote this song called "The Farmer," and of course, I grew up, farming, and at the time writing it, I was just I finished the song and I didn't say anything about it, but I was not sold on it. I was just like, I mean, it's cool, and I like the guitar, and it feels good, I guess, but I was just like, for some reason or another, I just at the time was not sold on that song. And then as we got close, I started playing it out some, and I started seeing how people were kind of reacting to it. And then uh, my co-writer I wrote it with, he actually demoed it. And once I heard it kind of like come all together, and I was just like, all right, it's a little bit cooler than I thought it was, to be honest with you. Like honestly, it was one of those like I just kind of out of sight, out of mind, and put it out of play. And then when I heard the demo, that's when I was like, okay, yeah, maybe we should start playing this out and see what happens. And then I started getting, I was playing a show in Kansas City like 2 years ago and had, people coming up to me like, please tell me you're going to play the farmer. Please tell me you're going to play that song. Because at the time I'd only put it out on like TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that because I just was on the fence and I was just like, well, guess we're going to have to put that one out too then, that type of deal.
Yeah,
But that definitely does happen, like there's just on both sides, because there's been songs I've written where I was just like, this is a hit. Like in my mind, I'm like, this is a hit song. Like this is a hit song. No brain. Like no brainer, no brainer. And then of course, it wasn't. But
right.
yeah, you just learn. You live and learn.
Now, with things you have written, have you had any of that, like, hey, this artist wants to put it on hold, or you have intent for a different artist, and with
Mhm.
your songs, has any of that happened for you along the way?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We wrote a song called Woman Made. And I think that song was probably 6 years old when it finally got cut. Jay Allen, he ended up recording that song, and we wrote it, like I said, 6 years ago. And again, it was one of those songs where I loved it. I thought it was great. It wasn't lyrically, it felt like a me song, but the way we kind of arranged it, um, I just didn't know if like it was a song that I could pull off and give it justice. So I just never ended up cutting it. And then again, time goes by, you forget about it. And then one day out of the blue, my co-writer called me and he was just like, hey, remember that song we wrote at your farm, Woman Made? And I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that was a pretty good. He's like, it's getting cut. Jay Allen's putting it on his record. And I was like, sick. All right, let's go. Maybe it was better than I thought it was.
Yeah,
But yeah, that happens a lot, man. And then you on the other side too, like I've had songs put on hold before and then nothing ends up ever happening once it comes to the studio, it just doesn't make it. So I try not to get ever like overly excited about holds because
right,
you just until like the release date hits and that song is in the universe, it can always get pulled. So
right.
that's kind of the downside. Like you learn over time not to get too overly excited about anything.
now since you've been in town and all that, like, what was your, you're working your ass off, and yeah, you get to meet Trace and go on the road and all that. But what was your, oh shit, I've made it. This is something
Yeah.
that I'm doing and it's working. Like, what was your aha moment?
There's been a couple, and the made it thing to me is, I think it's different for everybody. Like some people, for them,
Yeah,
making it means like, I just signed a publishing deal, and I'm a full-time writer, or, I just got my first booking deal or record deal. Making it for me, man, was like, a couple years back, I was playing a show and I was in Wyoming, and, you know, playing my songs and then seeing and people singing the words back to me. And I'm just like, this is, I can't believe they know this song. And then like after the show was
yeah.
over, I was talking to, this group of people, and they're like, it was like 9 dudes had flown in from Canada because they, found me on Spotify. Like one of the guys heard a song randomly on Spotify, shared it to his buddies, and they started following me on social media or whatever. And then they saw that I was going to be in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and then all of them, decided like we're going to Jackson Hole. And then like singing my own music and then having like looking out and seeing other people singing along with it. To me, I was just like, man, if that's not making it, I don't know what is. Like I don't need a plaque on the wall that
Oh,
says I did, but
absolutely.
if seeing your crowd sing songs back to you that you wrote is like, to me, like the ultimate compliment there is. And then like this was kind of like a aha crazy moment was when we wrote Welcome to the South, and the Tennessee Titans picked it up and used it for a season as like when the visiting team would run out of the tunnel and come onto the field. Like we shot a music video for it and the whole 9 yards, and they would play that song like when the visiting team came out. And then again, like the GM called me one day and was like, "We're doing Monday Night Football at home. We're playing the Indianapolis Colts, and we want you to introduce them on the field as your song plays." And I'm standing out there.
Damn.
I can't remember, like 70,000. I can't remember how big Nissan or how many people it holds, but it was a Monday Night Football game and it was packed. And I was just trying to like take it in for a second, and I'm looking around. I'm like, this is nuts. Never in a million years would I thought I'd have been standing on an NFL football field, getting ready to announce, the visiting team come on the field on Monday Night Football. So I was just like, if this is as big as it ever gets, man, this is a pretty cool moment. Like
You know,
I, I was
yeah,
uh I was kind of taken back.
yeah. I love that you said that because it's like you don't realize, or you don't think about, right, when you do stuff like this, right? Yeah, the music's great, getting on stage is great, and all of that is awesome. But you we don't talk enough about the other things, the other doors that open, or the experiences you get to
Hmm.
have based on, your talents, and whether they use your music or not, right? Regardless if the Titans use your song or not, you get to meet the GM because of this
Yeah,
connection or that connection, right? You know what I mean? Like, we don't talk enough about those things because it's like, realistically, right? You could be as good or as shitty or whatever, right? It's all about who you know at the end of the day. Again, regardless of how good or bad you are, it's all in
100%.
who you know and who can get you in that door.
Yeah. No, that you're spot on. And that's they call it kind of like a good old boy network in a sense, but that's very much that, like I've
Right.
again, it's Nashville, man. I mean, you can walk up and down the road and just hear some dude sitting on a, 5-gallon bucket playing guitar, and you're just like, what the hell? Like how has that dude not been discovered, and
Right.
a lot of it comes down to relationships. It really does.
Yeah. It really does. I say it all the time. Like, if and it's personality too. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You can't be good or bad and be an asshole and expect the world. You know,
Exactly.
you really can't.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but on the flip side of that, I've met plenty of people in this industry that are complete assholes, and it's like, how did you get where you are?
Yeah, there are a few of them out there too.
But yeah, but like, I mean, I'm sure there's a level of superstardom that you hit or things you've been through that I'm sure jades you a little bit, and like honestly, I've been doing this 4 years, and there's moments I have that I've gotten into places that I never in a million years would have expected, and it's like,
Oh,
holy
dude, yeah,
shit.
100%. Yeah, it is like a whole like a holy shit moment at times,
Yeah,
or again, like I don't ever get like nervous to play or stage fright or anything like that, but it's just that, even uh Sunday morning at the Opry. So they have like this church service at the end of CMA week where they have a bunch of artists come in, and typically it's one song, but essentially it's a church service at the end of CMA Fest, and they have a bunch of legacy acts that come through, and occasionally they'll have a bigger name in there, and just I've done that now for 5 years, and man, I tell people all the time, I don't care if it's an Opry show or not, but just walking out on that stage, and then you look down and there's the circle, and you're just like, how did I get here? You know what I mean? It's just like, how did I even get here?
yeah,
It's just
yeah,
that was every time, man. That's just one of those things. Like my heart is always racing, and it's just I think part of it is just the history that has happened on that stage, and everybody that's graced it and walked it, and then it's just like here you are, and you're just kind of what is happening right now? It's
right,
great.
right,
It's a
because
crazy feeling.
regardless of how hard you work, regardless of how, I mean, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I don't think so. But like, regardless of how hard you work or how well you're doing, or whatever, you always have that level of doubt. You know what I mean? And or at
Mm,
the end of the day, like you're still just you, right? Regardless of what you've
hmm.
done, and then you're in those moments, and you're like, everything like goes away, and it's like, how the fuck did this happen?
It is, man. I mean, I feel like that a lot of times, even with these festivals, like we were in Cadott, Wisconsin this year. I played Summerfest this year, and Carolina Country Music Festival, and I was sitting backstage, and I'm just like, man, I don't care. I have the 2 p.m. slot. Like freaking Riley Green is here. I just got done hanging out with him
Yeah,
and catering, and or
right.
you're the Summerfest stages. I mean, you have all genres of artists. I mean, I think Hoser was the headliner the night that I was playing, and then Lainey Wilson was there the night before, and then like Def Leppard was there, and it's just like this is insane. Like
Yeah,
15-year-old me in my basement with my guitar and my buddies. I never would have ever pictured this ever happening. So it's just it's such a cool feeling, man. I mean, like I said, regardless. I just always try to stay level-headed about everything, and just enjoy the blessings, because like I mean I just know none of it's possible without God anyway. So
yeah,
I just try to be thankful for every opportunity, regardless if it's a 2 p.m. slot, at 98 degrees outside, or if you luck in and you get a direct support slot for a Trace Atkins type. It's just a blessing either way to be able to say like, man, I'm doing what I wanted to do when I was 15, like this is it. Like I get to play music in
yeah.
front of people. This is amazing.
Have you ever had what was? Do you remember your first like starstruck, like, oh my god moment?
Yeah, 100%. So Trace, the first time meeting Trace was definitely, a very like surreal moment for me. But man, when we recorded Simplify together, he came to the studio that I record at, which I've recorded with the same guy since day one, and he's got a great studio, but it's not on Music Row, like it's not like the world famous studio or anything, but it's really really nice. It's He's got a giant garage that's like looks like you would park heavy like equipment in, but it's a studio, and I of course got there early, and we were sitting there talking, and I was like, dude, like Trace Atkins is about to show up. Like, think about that. That's crazy. I was listening to him when I was a kid, farming for my grandpa, and he's about, about that time. There's a knock on the door, and bam, there he is, and then like we spent the better part of 4 or 5 hours together, and he kind of was just took control of the room a little bit and was just, man, I think what you guys have started is great. Let's fine tune it and make it even better. And my producer Daniel and I are just kind of like looking at each other and like, dude, Trace is sitting at the control booth, like that was
Right,
a
right, right.
crazy experience for me. Yeah. Yeah, that was wild. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That and I again, like hearing your songs and hearing your story, like it's always nice to see somebody that works hard like you do and has the grit and the determination, like do good things, and have those experiences and have those opportunities to do even better things.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's definitely harder than I ever like. I knew it wasn't going to be an easy ride by any means, but it was way harder than I ever thought it would be. Because
Yeah.
everything else, there's kind of a game plan, like joining the Marine Corps. Okay, I got to run fast. I got to be in shape. I got to, listen to what people tell me if I get yelled at. Okay. But like, in this industry, there's no blueprint. No one sits down and says, okay, this
Oh,
is what you got to do in order to be successful. Like you just gotta freaking try and go do it. And you kind of learn along
right.
the way, like what works, what doesn't. But I mean, like I said, I mean, I've been doing it, 9.5 years now, and I'm still trying to learn things and figure out what to do better. So it's really tough, man, but I do appreciate it because yeah, I feel very blessed to have the people around me that I have that have pushed me, not just my manager, but and at home, my wife is just she's the real rock star. I mean, I would have quit 5 years ago if it
Oh yeah.
wasn't for her. And yeah, I mean, her and my manager have pushed me so hard, and again, just reminding myself like I haven't done all these things just to say that I've done it. I feel like there's definitely a bigger plan, and it's just God's timing and just trying to be patient and realize that timing is everything. So ride
Yeah.
it, and you'll have your moment at some point.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, for what you got coming out music wise and show wise for the rest of the year, what is all of that looking like for you?
Sure. Yeah. So as of right now, I think we're on schedule basically every 5 weeks until about February or March of next year. I think already have songs ready to go, and we're still, writing and putting things out. I was kind of just playing a singles game, but all these singles that we were writing for this year have all kind of started to feel really good together. So I'm thinking at some point next year, I'll probably put them all on an album together and release an album. I just cut another song 2 weeks ago that I feel like is probably going to be the title track for the song, or for the album rather. It's called "Where I'm At These Days," and I think that's what I'm probably going to name the project. But yeah, we got a ton of music coming out, and just and show wise is kind of the same. I mean, I'm headed to Kansas City in a couple weeks, and then on to Illinois. Then I think I have about a week or two off, and then I'm going to do a show in my hometown called Adam Warner and Friends, and I'm going to bring two mystery guests with me for that one. So that'll be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So where is home? Where do you come from originally?
Yeah, my hometown, it's called Lawrenceville, Illinois. It's at the southeastern corner of the map. Basically, we're right on the Indiana kind of stone's throw from Indiana, close to Kentucky. I'm only 3.5 hours from home here in Nashville, so it's not too far.
Oh, okay, that's not
But
too
it's
bad.
just a little farm town. No, not bad at all. Parents get to come up quite a bit, see the baby and all that good stuff. So it's nice. But yeah, it's a little farm town, man. There's not much there. I mean, you either farm or you work in a refinery or Toyota in Evansville, Indiana. So, but
Yeah,
man, I wouldn't change a thing though. It was great. It was a great childhood being able to grow up there.
that's awesome, man, Adam. I love what you're doing, and I can't wait to see and hear more from you and what you're doing. And dude, if you ever get yourself up here into the Massachusetts area, let us know because we would love to come out and you know
Oh, that'd be
drink a
great.
beer
Yeah.
and shoot the shit, man.
Heck yeah, man. I would, that would be a blast. I would love that. I
Yeah,
got a buddy that lives like in the PA area. Um, that's about as far as I've gotten on that side of things. But man, I'm all about it. I'll play anywhere. So that'd be sick if we could
yeah,
make it out that way. I'd love to hang out.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I mean, you know how to get a hold of us, and honestly, it's been a
Absolutely.
pleasure. It's been a pleasure shooting the shit and getting to know you and your story. And anytime you got things coming, let us know, man, and we'll do
For
everything
sure.
we can to push it out there for you.
Man, that means a lot. I really appreciate that because I tell people all the time, man, it is a full-on, hands-on deck team effort. So anybody that is
It's
willing to help me, bro, I appreciate the crap out of it because
yeah,
man, it means a lot, especially
yeah.
in an industry where not very many people are willing to do that.
No, no, they're really not. They're really not.
Yeah,
Well, man, thanks again for taking your time. I know shit's busy, and being dad and husband you know, isn't always the easiest to
full
manage everything. So I
full-time
appreciate the
jobs.
hell out of you. That's right. That's
Ah,
right.
man, thank you. No, it means a
Yeah,
lot,
man.
seriously. I really
Yeah,
appreciate your support.
absolutely. Anytime, anytime. We'll chat soon for sure.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Sounds great, man. Thank you again.
See ya. Of course. Well, there you have it, everybody. Our conversation with Adam Warner. Thank you again, Adam, so much for being here. Um, we what do we got? What do we got? I think that's it. This coming week, Stephen Wilson Jr. will be in Providence on Friday. Hopefully, we'll check that out. Um, that's it. That's it. We're really gearing up for Country Calling, um, and all that in Maryland. We're heading out first weekend of October for that. So in a week and a half, we'll be heading out. Um, yeah, so we'll have a lot of shit coming. So stay tuned. And yeah, that's all. That's all. We haven't been we weren't officially invited to Country Calling, but if you think that's gonna stop this fucking show from doing its thing, you're out of your goddamn mind. So until next week, guys, enjoy your week. Be good to each other. And that's it, guys. We'll see you on down the road. Cheers.